All right. What's going on, Kingdom Diplomats? Let's go, let's go. Give me about 3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes. Write those terms down right there. Put a space in between them. One, two, three. One, law, space. Two, dominion, space, colony. That's number three, obviously, and then space. All right. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. All right, guys. 60 seconds. 14 seconds. 14 seconds. Let's go. All right, all right. What's up, peeps? Internationally. Hey, do me a favor, real quick, guys. In the chat box, put what country that you're tuning in from. All righty. So let's get this party started. Looks like I'm about a few minutes behind, but that's okay. So this podcast is going to be short, sweet, and straight to the point. Hope you guys had a great week. Hope it's going well. Yeah, life is going to happen, but it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. Attitude, right? Okay, so go ahead and write this down. Law, land, air, water, dominion, right? Make sure you got space between all of these, and then colony, okay? The reason why you and I exist, okay? All right, if this is the first time tuning in, welcome to Kingdom Diplomat podcast. And obviously, I'm your host, Tyreek, which my name actually means leader and visionary. Cool. you should look up the meaning of your name, right? Okay. I know some of you are probably thinking out there, hey man, when I'm growing up, they called me stupid, they called me idiot, they called me this and everything. It's not what they call you, it's actually what you answer to, right? Because the world is always trying to shape your thinking to kind of put a chokehold right on you, put you in a headlock, okay, or something that you're actually not. All right. So if you're new in here, go ahead and subscribe. If you're not, again, welcome, welcome, welcome. I thank you guys for following me. This channel actually is for you. I already told you my background yesterday, and maybe I need to post it a little bit or whatever. But I'm gonna delve a little bit deeper into a lot of things that that you guys maybe argue about, maybe you talk about, maybe you get frustrated about, angry about, and rage about. I want to talk to you about the 5 most important, and these will never change, guys. I'm gonna, reiterate this over and over and over again, but the 5 most important questions that every or all mankind needs to know, right? Who am I? Identity. Where am I from? Right? Origin. That's a huge one. All of them are huge. Where am I going? Okay. Vision. Right? Your future is not trapped or externally. It's not ahead of you. It's actually trapped on the inside of you. What can I do? Your talents, abilities, skills, and where, let me see, what was it? Who am I? Identity. Where am I from? Where am I going? What can I do? And why am I here? Right? Why am I here? Okay. So there's a lot of questions. And what, before you, as you're answering that and trying to figure that out, I present to you an exercise you should check out. I wasn't planning on doing this. Okay. So you'll know what I'm right. Take 1 or 2 of those questions, okay, and ask your dad, your mom, your their dad and mom, kids. Ask aunts, uncles. Ask your best friend. Ask the people that you hang around, right? Because a lot of people, when you tell them that, they're like, nah, that's not going to happen. People I hang around, birds of a feather flock together and all that stuff. What I listen to, what I look at doesn't affect me, and I know it's just ignorance and stupidity. But, ask your sphere of influence and just be quiet. Don't say anything and listen. Take 2-3 days and just ask one of those 5 questions, 2 of them, 3 of them, and just take a mental note, right? And I guarantee you the majority of the people, right, close to 100% of the people, they may know 1 of them, but most likely they don't know the other 4. Or possibly, especially the people who are ambitious and have figured some things out, they may know 2 of them. But most people on the planet don't know all 5, okay? And I know all 5, okay? I've written them down, and yes, they can evolve some as I get more and more revelation. But you should write them down yourself, okay? Those 5 questions. That's a little. And then next time you hop on, just ask me in the chat box, and let me know, okay? What hey, I asked, my pastor, who are you, or where are you from, okay? And make a mental note of that, because I'm very curious in finding out. All right, let's get into this. Okay, so as you see behind me, and I've been talking about this for the last 2 or 3 weeks, because most people don't even know what that acronym stands for. Law, land, air, water. It's dealing with jurisdiction. It's dealing with government, you see. And what you were taught, especially if you're a Christian, if you're part of the Christian religion or any other religion, you were taught that there's a separation of church and state, okay? And obviously that's another lie. So the body actually is part of or is a government agency. Okay, I'll prove it to you. So obviously we live up under a democratic republic. Most of the Western world does. We have enough data for us to go and look at all the stats. Okay, you can hop on there right now. You can go to AI or whatever. Oh, and by the way, AI basically, no, it's AGI now. I think it is. Artificial General Intelligence or something like that. But I know I just seen an article that a CEO has cut 4,500 jobs, probably with no notice, very little notice, if any at all. And so it's gonna overall this next 1, 2, probably 3 to 4 years, they're gonna cut a great deal of jobs. So if I were you, I'd really be thinking about how that's going to affect you. And if you think you're just going to put your head in the sand like an ostrich and it's just going to blow by, it's going to pick you up. It's going to pick that hole up and all the ground that you're on and just toss you like like Popeye the Sailor Man throwing a football, 200 yards. That's how it's going to be. So read up on it, figure out wherever position that you're in, and as far as a job and how that's going to affect you. Okay. It's not my job to do it. It's your job to do it. Okay. Because I'm already doing it, right? I've been doing it. But anyway, so law. Okay. So you got land, air, water. Okay. Now, so under a democratic republic, you have a president, right? Now, a president or a prime minister, they can't tell you, right, do what I tell you to do, okay? Right, they're not kings, right? They're opposite of kings. So when you follow what a democratic republic is, as I said before, we know all the data. We have enough data over the last, 2,000 years or so or more of a democratic republic and obviously the failures of it, right? And the reason why it's a huge failure is because all you have to do is just look at all the rape, the molestation, the violence, the kidnapping, the trafficking, guns. I mean, look at all the corporations. I mean, there's countless articles, right? There's countless things that we've seen and heard, and people that know on the ground that we know that it doesn't work. But yet we keep saying, well, maybe next time, and that's why we as mankind try to invent things to make this life a little bit better, right? And unfortunately, you have greed. That's the hugest thing. Is that the real word? No. Okay. Well, I can say that if I want to. That's the biggest thing. Okay. And pride. Okay. They go hand in hand, right? But what a lot of people don't know is that, yes, pride comes, but when pride hits a certain level, obviously there's going to be a fall, right? And then there's going to be shame to follow, okay? It doesn't matter how much you think you have or don't have, what you think you control, who you think you control, what you don't control. It's just a matter of time, right? Before the judgment inside the law, right? Land, air, water, right? The king, the creator, the Lord over everything you can see and I can see, okay, will obviously, the judgment will be inside the law, okay? So it happens automatically, right? I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. We were talking about, he mentioned something about the law of gravity, and I was like, yeah, it has no respect of a persons, right? So anyway, all right, so let's get into this a little bit. Let's look up the word law, okay? I think I did this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it bears repeating. Okay, so law, a rule of conduct or procedure established by custom, agreement, or authority. Here's another one. The body of rules and principles. Aha, principles. Principles, laws have no respect of persons. Governing the affairs of a community and enforced by a political authority, a legal system. So I told you our problem is government, right? And government and religion go hand in hand, by the way. Okay, they're the top two, or should I say, the top problems of mankind. Okay, so in this podcast, I'm going to show you why, how, where, all that stuff. Okay, and then what's the solution? All right, the condition of social order or justice created by adherence to such a system. Okay. So, and let me look at this one right here. This is Webster. Okay. Webster. Okay. The control brought about by the existence or enforcement of such law, land, air, water. Okay, so what does that have to do with you and I? All right. Why do we exist? Who are we? Okay. What are we here for? Okay. Many people, probably if not most, especially in the Western world, they think they're here because they were placed here to chase money, to live free. Depends on your definition, right? All that has to do with all your definitions. And, to go to school, get married, have a bunch of kids, retire, and then die physically, right? That's mostly the objective in the Western world, right? And obviously the Eastern world, it's the mindset is a lot different. Their philosophy and their ideology, their concepts are different. Okay, and they understand more of kingdom concept than we do over in the Eastern and the Western world. Who knows? Right? Maybe in the East, everything is upside down or reversed, inverted. That I found out. A lot of things that I've learned, just like you have learned, that they say were true but weren't true, right? Anyway, so who knows? We may be on the east end of the world, and maybe the maps were made up or changed somewhere along the way. Maybe you should look that up, right? Just like Alkebulin, okay? Alkebulin actually his real name is, or the real name is Alkebulin, but you know her, I know her, the world knows her as Africa, okay? So that's not actually her real name because that was the name of a former Roman general who raped, robbed, and pillaged, right? And the reason why that was is because of their resources, right? Still going on a lot today, right? And it has to do with this country also too is involved in it. Obviously, the state of, over there in the Middle East, which that is an old term, and that's actually a made-up term. It's not real. But if you type in Google the map of 1288 and type in Alkebulin, Alkebulan, you will see the original map. What happened to that? Why weren't we taught that? Aha! Because he or she that has lack of knowledge will be deceived. You should write that down, okay? All right, now let's see. Let's look at this. So let's delve into law, land, air, water. I'm gonna wrap this thing up in here in about 10 minutes. Okay. All right. So what's our intent? Okay. What was the intent of the Creator and the Lord creating the King, creating us? Now I know you were brainwashed, just like I was brainwashed to run away and curse the king and everything. And it's very simply put, it's because of the natural kings and queens obviously were greedy. They were spiritually dead. They didn't take care of their, citizens of their kingdom, because a citizen, right, is a reflection of the queen or king. I'm talking naturally now, okay? Because spiritually, kings and queens, well, spiritually, there is no queen. There's a king, right? Because the spirit doesn't have gender. But I'm talking about naturally now. Okay, you got to see when I'm switching sometime. Okay, so with that being said, being that they were unrighteous kings, right? They abused their citizens, right? When the citizens, because there is a law that the king has, right? The scribe writes down the law, and obviously, when you want to look at the Bible actually is not about a religion called Christianity. And I said this, and I'll keep on saying it. Why? Because simply it's not. The Romans called the people of the way Christians, which means imbecile, idiot, and actually it was a tax code given by Caesar, right, to make fun of them. And he said, well, I'm making fun of them, I'm going to drain them of all their resources. Real money, actually. Okay, not the fake money fake system that we live in today, right? The zeros and ones, right? The digits, the cash. Cash is not money, right? It's just a federal note. So this is stuff that you guys already know because you're smart, right? You're aware and you're very knowledgeable, okay? So let's see. Let's get into this. So the whole purpose, and this is basically what the Bible is about without delving into a lot of it, is that the creator is a king. Now, a king, you have to remember, thinks differently than a president or prime minister. As I said before, president, prime minister can't tell you, you do this, you do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. Okay. Now, they try to do that, right, and usurp our authority as sovereign beings, right, and citizens, right, because our creator gave us, right, all this for free, right? And the reason why that is obviously is because there was a fall. Okay, Adam did fall. Adam, again, is not the name of the first man. Adam is the title. Okay, so man actually means spirit. Okay, you should write that down. Okay, you're a spirit, you have a soul, you live in a body. All right, very simple. Okay, you're a triune being. Three, that means something. Okay, all right, and remember that the Bible actually is a code, it's a mathematical book. Okay, has all different, has over 333 prophecies, something like that, and actually over 300 of them have been proven to come into fruition, come into the natural realm, the physical realm. Okay, so with that being said, now let's look at, so I said law. Okay, so you do have jurisdiction. Okay, so what happened to your power? Very simply put, as I said before, is Adam rebelled. Now we all came through Adam, as I said before, yesterday. Okay, so he contaminated us, he poisoned us spiritually, right through the womb, because we all got to come through the womb, right? We all got to, our dad had to plant the seed inside the mom, the earth, so to speak, right? The soil, right? And voila, here we come, growing as a little spirit. We have a little unique soul, and we live in the body because we're in the natural realm. Okay, we have our five sensory organs, right? Our five senses. That's what they're talking about, sensory organs. Okay, so we exist on three different planes. All right, that's why you see, you can't, all the thoughts that come through your mind are not yours. Okay, so there is technology out there that can plant thoughts, take it, try to attack your mind and everything like that. Dealing with, energy, everybody knows that. Everybody's, sees it all over social media. A lot of people are being affected by it and everything. My recommendation is document everything. Okay, document everything. So it'll be something for later on. Okay, but I don't want to get off tangent. So law, right? So we have jurisdiction as mankind on this planet. Okay, that's in Genesis 1:26, right? So for instance, if let's say you have a business and you have a jurisdiction, right, and a certain area, let's say you have an ice cream business or some sort, right? But you have one good kind, you have several different kinds, but you're known for a certain specific flavor. Okay, so that's your area of dominion, that's your leadership of dominion. Okay, let's say you're at a whatever job you have, say you're in a marketing job or janitorial job, let's say you're a janitor, right? Okay, and at the school, right, and there's multiple janitors within the whole district, but you never get complaints on your hallways and how you clean up and everything. You have pristine standards. Okay, so that's your leadership in that area of gifting. Not saying that that's your gift, but what you've done with leadership, you said, hey, if I have this job, I'm thankful for it, right? And I'm going to do the best that I can, and I'm going to make it look pristine. And guess what? People will notice, right? And it's always preparing you for the next job or business, right? I would always say have a business on the side. So whatever job that you've had at least a year or 2 years, you should always turn that into a business. Boom, that's your side income right there. That's priceless right there. I just showed you how to increase your income by 10, 15, 20%. Okay, all the other stuff is easy to figure out. Okay, because that's your expertise in any job that you have, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, so you got to figure that one out. So stop complaining. This is going up, that's going up. Yes, I know. Yes. Okay. So, we have a fiat fake system. Okay. So they're printing money with no accountability. There's no gold or silver, which is real money, real resources of the creator that backs it. It's not, you see what I'm saying? So there's nothing to back it. Okay, so there's printing stuff. Okay, so it what it basically does, it dilutes our labor. Okay, that's what printing fake fiat notes does. Okay, so again, I just gave you a idea to start your own business. Okay, you don't have to run around and publicize and everything like that. You can just start right where you are. Start with what you have. Okay, so I just increased your income 10, 20, 30, 40%. Some of you, I probably increased it and helped you replace your current income, right? Your job income within the next 2, 3 years, right? If you get serious about it. Okay. All right, so that's easy. Set an objective, plan for it, and use what you have. Start small, stay small, read up on it. Become an expert at it. You little by little. Turn the TV off. Put the phone down. That's tearing up your brain. Okay, and the people who created that will tell you that. All you gotta do is read a couple of articles, and it's fragmenting your brain, it's distorting your brain, it's distorting your reality and everything. So put that down and rewire your brain originally. Okay, now to where it's supposed to be at. All right, let's get into the second one. So dominion. Okay, dominion. That's what you're supposed to have. That's why you exist. Okay, dominion. For instance, Virginia. Okay, that's a commonwealth, right? Obviously, you had the 13 colonies. I'll get into that here in a few minutes. Okay, but dominion, right? Dominion. Okay, so that's one of the reasons you were created, is to have dominion. Okay, what's the Bible about? Is the Bible about Christianity? Is the Bible about any other religion? Heck no. Okay, it's not about religion. Religious people, keep listening to you. Keep listening to me, right? Now, so with that being said, so dominion is something we were created to have. Okay, so since Adam rebelled, we lost that dominion. Okay, and guess what? The governor, okay, because I'm talking about government, there's not one time you heard me refer to religion. Okay, when you read Genesis and 1, 2, 3, even when you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you didn't see anything in there about religion. Okay, so that was a ploy by the enemy of this world, okay, to put it under a religious category. Okay, so yes, Christianity is a religion, and I already told you why. I don't need to get into that. Obviously, the cross, I believe in the cross. I met the King. I'm washed in his blood. He's Lord and Savior and King, right, and creator over my life, okay, and household. But the cross is not the gospel. It's a gospel, but it's not the gospel, right? Go to Matthew 24:14, and the King will tell you in the flesh, he will tell you what it says. Matthew 24:14 NIV, he tells you this gospel of the kingdom, a king's government. Okay, now let's go back to this. Okay, so we did have dominion, right? He had to come back. He had to wait all that time in between to come back, right? Because it wasn't the right setting. So he had to wait till the Romans, right, were in charge. Okay, right? And so he came back then through the womb, okay, of Mary, right? Because she agreed. It had to be an agreement, right? That's part of law. An agreement has to take place, right? Like a contract, okay? And he came through under the flesh. Why? It's very simple, because kings cannot, this king, the righteous king, the creator, Yahweh, he cannot void his word, right? His word is above his name, okay? His name, okay? So one day the president can hop on TV and say this, and the next day he can say that, right? One president can say this and say that. One prime minister can say this and say that. It's different from this king, from the righteous king, right? Yahweh, or Yeshua, right? In the one in the flesh, king in the flesh. And basically, once he said something, he cannot. So he had to submit, right? He was subject to his word, okay? That's how faith comes, okay? Because think about it. If the creator and the king and the Lord wasn't subject to his word, he can say one day one thing and then the next second, the next, right? So, I mean, everything would be in chaos. Why is there order, right? If there is chaos, it's because mankind is causing chaos, right? And why does mankind cause chaos? As I said before, because of the fall, right? Spiritual death is running through all of mankind. He had to come to give us eternal life, right? And because of that disorder, right? He had to come back and bring order, okay? And the reason why there's a bunch of chaos is because man has a lot of chaos inside their spirit, inside their mind, right? It doesn't matter how much material things you think you have. Bottom line is mankind doesn't own anything, right? When I realized that, mankind, I don't own anything, mankind doesn't own anything. They didn't create anything, okay? He's the only creator. Through creation rights, he created everything. That automobile that you think is yours, right? That home that you think is yours, where do you think that material came from? It came from the earth. Who created the earth? Okay, thank you. Okay. How about that suit? How about that dress? Okay. How about that food? I rest my case. Keep on going down the line. Now that we got that established, okay? So, nobody should be having any pride, okay? Anyway, so dominion, okay? So I'm gonna read that. It means the control or the exercise of control. Sovereignty, okay? So all you sovereign citizens out there, that's accurate. Sovereignty. So your freedom doesn't come from a man, okay? It comes from the creator. I don't care if you're atheist, agnostic. You apply some of these principles, okay, even though you may not be a citizen, okay, you may not have gotten your citizenship again, but these principles have no respect of persons, right? So, but if you apply them and you die, obviously physically, then your jurisdiction, obviously, and your penalty, your judgment is obviously you have to go to hell. Okay, and the reason why that simply is because Satan is the god of this world system, and that's where he's going. Okay, because he tried to do a coup, right? A coup. You know what a coup is? If not, just go look it up, right? They happen all the time. They're planned. There's all kind of different things, okay? Whether it be a coup over a family, a coup over a neighborhood, a coup over government, coup, corporation, there's always coups, right? Again, it's because of our fallen nature, spiritual nature, right? So however deep and however to the left, so to speak, our fallen nature is spiritual death, a righteous born again spirit, righteous spirit goes to the right also too, however long. So there's people out there who will do right by you, right? There's people out there. See, the Lord, the creator knows who belongs to him, right? There's a mark, okay? And I'm not going to get into that right now in these end times that we're walking out, okay? So let's see. So I already told you about what dominion means, to control and exercise. So the whole goal of our king is that we are small kings, hence the phrase king of kings. Okay, that's why he called us kings and lords, right? So he's Lord, all caps. That means he's the owner and ruler of all things you can see and can't see, right? And he's a king, but we're small kings, right? So we're created on the same plane, right? We have attributes, okay? Look at Genesis 1:26 NIV, okay? Let us make mankind in our image, okay? He's talking from the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So it's called an anthropomorphism. In other words, he wanted to reveal himself in 3 different ways, okay? So with that being said, since we are a triune being, again, land, air, water. See, it's 3. Okay, you'll get it. You guys are smart. You're amazing people, right? You're gonna put that phone down or use that phone and get some books and work on this mind, right? You're gonna turn that TV off, right? And you're gonna get reconnected, right? You're gonna get re-citizenized, if that's a word. If not, you heard it here first, right? You're gonna get regrafted in, right? As an ambassador, right? Into the kingdom of God, right? The kingdom of heaven. Now, let me go ahead and wrap this up. So dominion, you're supposed to have dominion over your area of gifting. So that's what can you do? What can you do? Your talents, abilities, gifts. Some of you know what they are. Probably most of you know what they are, at least one of them, right? Whether it be music, whether it be maybe you have a sports gift, maybe you have poetry, maybe you have a gift in marketing, you have a gift in art, you have a gift, whatever it is, right? Master that. Read up on it. Go to school if you need to, right? Read. Actually, the real school is outside of school, right? Because you got to remember, schools, public schools, private schools, localities, states, federal level, they're all incorporated, right? So they're all about commerce, money, okay? Or the fiat money, right? So they're all money driven, okay? Which when you 99% of the time, when you're money driven, you're going to be greed driven, okay? But your real school will take place, and they did have schools way back in the day that didn't have the four walls, and the two windows or whatever like that. They had it at the kids had it at home, right? Because the parents were reading up on what they were supposed to be reading up, okay? On the Bible, okay, which is a legal document, a constitution. All right, so dominion. So whatever your dominion is, based upon your talents or abilities, you're supposed to dominate that area of gifting. Guess what? You don't have to chase after money, folks, right? Money will run from you, right? And if it does, it will run from you. And that's it. You don't want to know. You want to know that. So King Solomon said that he'd make Elon Musk look like a bag boy in the grocery store, right? A bum living under a bridge, right? In L.A. or New York, right? Or wherever, okay? Any part of the world, okay? And so according to his wealth today, he's tens of trillions of dollars, man, or money, right? Resources. He had real resources, right? He didn't have government contracts. He was the king, right? Anyway, he had nations coming to him because of his wisdom, but that's a whole nother topic in itself. Um, so the reason why I mentioned that is because basically he said that you shouldn't chase money because it'll fly away from you, right? The whole purpose of life is to chase the king, right? His laws, his principles, right? In every single area, okay? Not saying you're not going to struggle, not saying things are going to happen, not going to happen, they will happen, right? But if you block all that negative out incrementally and thin your circle out, right? And put good stuff in here, you have no choice but to respond, okay, in the right way, okay? Now, there's maybe some times where there's been some times you may have a little fit, or you may get angry here, there, or, you go through some rocky stuff because you're dealing with this flesh, right? It has spiritual death in it, right? It wants to do bad things, right? But remember, you were created to have jurisdiction over land, air, water, and have dominion, right? Okay. So all those principles in there, there's a way to push this flesh down. Okay. Anyway. All right. So I know this is heavy, but that's okay. Okay. Because time is running out. Okay. Literally, there's a lot of financial things that are coming, and that's going to rock your world. And I'm so glad that I'm going to have a surfboard. I'm going to be flying high, right? I'm going to be like the eagle. Okay. Because I already have a lot of these principles already inside of me. All right. And I'm putting them in other people that are around me, right? That want to be put in, okay? Some people may not want it, okay? And that's okay, right? But when pressures apply, when things happen, guess what's going to happen? When it's funny how people, don't want to do certain things that they know they should do, but when a little bit of pain hits them and a little bit of other things hit them, it's amazing how we as mankind can kind of straighten ourselves out, right? But anyway, that's a whole other topic in itself, okay? So last word, colony, okay? Hopefully you write that down, colony, okay? What is a colony? What is a colony? What is a colony? What does a colony have to do with the Western world? If you're in the Eastern world, you're under a kingdom. At some point, you know what a colony is, right? At some point in time in your country's history, they probably were a colony, right? Or they were colonized. Okay, so let's look up this. Let's see. Cambridge. A colony is a country or area. Here we go. An area controlled in an official political way by a more powerful country. I'm gonna read that again. A country or area controlled in an official political way by a more powerful country. Okay, what did I say the Bible last week is about? Three things: a king, his kings, right? Mankind, his offspring, right? Mankind meaning the spirit children, so to speak, right? Everybody knows that spirit has created all matter, right? Everybody knows that the unseen controls the seen. Okay, if not, read some books, right? Get smart. I know a lot of dumb people that have a lot of degrees and they're on TV and they're ignorant about a lot of stupid things and they have a lot of zeros and ones, digits in the bank account, but they're stupid about this right here. Okay, they're ignorant about this. Okay, so you need to learn that. And so mankind, and then he wanted to have a colony in the natural. Okay, so I'm gonna say that one more time so you can get it. Okay, what is the Bible about? About Christianity? About any other religion? No, it's not about that. Okay, he tells you that, right? Look up a lot of the terms in the Bible: king, sovereignty, ambassador, citizenship. All these words, sin, all that stuff has to do with government. Okay, I rest my case. All right, that was easy. I don't have to stand up before people and that was evidence right there. Look up some of those words, you see it's the government. All right, because government is the problem, but government is the solution, right? So, which is a kingdom. All right, now, so the third thing is the colony called Earth. Okay, so the king said, I want to expand. That's what kings do. I'm going to expand my territory. Their glory comes from their territory and how well they take care of their citizens. Kings own everything. They own the animals, they own the air, they own the water, all that stuff, right? You say, well, government's trying to do this, government's trying to do it. Yes, they are trying to do that. That's because we, the people around the world, are allowing them to do that because we've been conditioned, right, since we were younger to believe that they have the authority over us, which they don't. We do, okay? Because authority doesn't come from another man or woman, okay? Let me say that again. Authority does not, authority and power and freedom, free, and then dominion, right? Free, dominion, means free from being dominated, okay? Does not come from another man, okay? It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what the Constitution says about the American Republic. It does not matter what mankind says. It doesn't matter. You can add up all the constitutions of all the countries. Okay, that's man's idea. But this Bible, okay, there's 88 books actually, although they give us 66. So that's a whole nother topic in itself. But you'll see in Genesis 1:26, that's a mandate that we were given. Okay, so if you don't know that, and unfortunately most people are going to die, okay, physically, and they're not going to know that, right? They're so far gone. That goes to show you that so you got to remember this brain is a supercomputer, and within this brain, or the outside the brain, this is the brain and this is the soul, they fit together, right? There's a possibility where in the natural, think about this, you can throw your laptop out the window, it can break, right? Or you can pour water on it, liquid on it, and just mess the whole laptop up, right? So unfortunately, a lot of people that are listening to me and know a lot about this or don't even want to deal with anything like this will die physically, and some spiritually, right? And not know who they truly are. And obviously that's sad. So about 115, 120 billion people have come before us, and you can mark it down, probably about 80 to 90% of them have already died and didn't even notice, okay? Or just ignored it, didn't even care, okay? Because why? Because of their laptop, their brain was brainwashed in the world that they were in, so far away from the concept of what the king created them to be and do, right, for his name's sake, for his reputation, to where, guess what, they say to themselves, it's just not worth it, okay? And so they end up eventually dying, okay? And that's sad, right? So I chose to go the other way, okay? I wasn't born like this, okay? I had to get hungry, okay? And one thing I know is that people have to be hungry, okay? Nothing is yours until you discover it. You should write that down, Okay, nothing is yours until you discover it, until you get hungry. Okay, so the Lord, the Creator, He's not going to go running after you. You know why? Because He's already done everything. Okay, read the beginning of the article in Genesis. Okay, He's already done everything. Okay, read the Gospels. Okay, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or just read Matthew. Okay, He's done everything. He's sitting down right at the right hand. Okay, with the Father. Okay, the right hand means the power. Okay, the power. All right, He has the authority and power bestowed upon Him by the Father. Okay, now, so what does this have to do with your daily life? It has to do with everything. See, this is the stuff we should have been taught when we were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. This is the real deal stuff and how to restore your power back, right? Okay. Anyway, all right. Last but not least, let's see, and I'm done. Okay. So colony. So Earth is a colony, right? So this right here, down here, we have a lease on, right? Even though we didn't create it, it's our job to commit stewardship and management. Okay, how well are we doing, guys? We're not doing well, right, at all on this planet, right? We're doing a lot of things. We're tearing up stuff left and right. Okay, but guess what? Our lease is running out. Okay, our 7,000-year lease is running out. Our 6,000-year lease is running out. Okay, and because it's running out, the king obviously knows everything. He created the end from the beginning. Some of y'all get that later on, right? A product doesn't come out into the market until it's finished, okay, by the manufacturer. Okay, so the product has to be finished before it comes out into the marketplace. Some of y'all get that later on. All right. So the colony. So we have jurisdiction over land, air, water. We have dominion over our area, not over people. Genesis 1:26, not over people. Remember, there's a judgment within that. Okay, that's a mandate given by the king through his territory. Okay, from the headquarters. This is his territory, the earth, right? So we're supposed to bring about heaven's culture, right? How? How are we supposed to do that? It's very simple. His principles, his laws. Okay? If you're a citizen of a country and you don't know your rights, somebody's going to take advantage of you, right? Of course. Okay? You need to know the principles and the laws. Okay? That's how we've been taken advantage of, right? Look it up. 1871, the United States of America incorporated itself. Abraham Lincoln, right? Now we're called corporate slaves, right? That's a whole other topic in itself, but all levels are incorporated. The localities are incorporated. The states are incorporated. The federal government is incorporated. And there's franchises within them, right? So anyway, that's a lot. I know it is. It's a lot. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. All right. So I'm done, guys. So I went over that. Hopefully you wrote them down. Look them up yourself. Law, dominion, colony, right? So I'm showing you how to get that restoration back. All right. So here's the end of it right here. Okay. Now, if you're with a different religion, you need to get out of religion. Okay. Because that system of rules is choking your spirit, your soul, in your body, in your family. And it's been doing it for generations. Okay. I'm from the Northeast originally. I went to a Catholic school, and if you read about the Romans, man, it's about penitence, right? They had a hustle going on, right? That's why they got so much natural resources and wars and all that stuff like that. It's very simple. It's because of greed, okay? It's penitence, right? If you want me to forgive you, the Pope, right? Father, that means Pope, Papa, okay? And basically he deems himself kind of like the father. And the king at that time, when they did this, there was a contract, an agreement, right? He was supposed to be like over all the whole world, okay? Over mankind, right? He deemed himself like Jesus, right? And the Pope was kind of like the father, Papa, Pope, Father, okay? You look it up. And so with that being said, they would say in order to be forgiven, you got to come, but you got to give me an offering. Okay. A lot of that stuff is still going on today. And believe you me, when the judgment comes down on any of these people, you don't want to be around them. I guarantee you don't want to be around them, because the king knows how to separate, okay, the righteous from the unrighteous. Okay. So I'm done. You guys have a great, great, great evening. I know this was a lot, but take it, listen to it again, okay? And study up on it, okay? But if you still, it's going to be harder for you to study if you're continuing to keep doing the same thing over and over again and trying to get different results, right? If you want to change into a new man or woman, you have to change your mind, okay? Change your mind. And if you change your mind, that means you're adding value to yourself. Resources will be attracted to you, okay? They will follow you, okay? You don't have to run after money like people are being foolish, right? Going to heaven and going to hell left and right over titles and money and all that stuff like that. Most of the fiat, money around the world, this digital system is fiat, it's fake. Cash is fake, okay? So why? Think about that. Why? Anyway, so your future is not ahead of you guys. It's literally trapped on the inside of you. So you guys have a great, great night. I may hop on here during the week, like I always say. I may not. But I will be back next week, Thursday at 7 p.m., delving more into this law, land, air, water, dominion, colony. Yes, sir. So you guys have a great night. Take care. Don't forget your homework.